Hello and welcome to Star Wars Order 66, Sons of the Order. We are located here in McKinney, Texas, in the Order 66 toy store, right off the square in historic downtown McKinney. Our store website is www.order66toys.net. And for this episode, we're a little bit short-staffed. We've got Jason and Jeff are out at a poker tournament. Josh might be with them. I don't know.
And Liam has probably got some sort of school activity and
a Mensa convention.
Yeah, no kidding.
Probably.
That's probably true. That kid's smart. And then Lainey is ill today. So
we are
three amigos.
Yeah, we are short staffed, but we're here nonetheless. Right here to my left, we've got
Chuck,
and then we've got
James speaking with his voice,
and then I'm Joey. And I think today we're just going to kind of highlight some of the things going on in the store and just our thoughts on random things we got banging around in our heads about collecting and that whole thing.
So this is episode 6.
Welcome. This is episode 6.
Episode 6.
Episode
Return
6.
of the Jedi.
Yep, episode 6.
This is like this is good.
Eventually we are going to run out of the movie titles to reference.
We've already done that.
Yeah, we're just...
We got one more.
We've got one more.
We've already done that.
I know one thing that we mentioned a few episodes ago, Vlix is one of the Vlix is the rarest figure, not only in Star Wars, but in all of collecting, the whole spectrum of collecting.
Yes.
And one is sitting here in the store.
Yes.
Lightning strikes twice.
Yeah, and from what I hear, another is on its way.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Well, what happened was it was yesterday in the store. I was talking to Jeff about our credit line and how much money we've been spending and taking in all whatnot and going over everything. And then he said, "Oh, we need to get this," and it was another Vlix.
Which, how often do you come across
that
seeing them for sale?
It's extremely rare.
And twice in such close proximity
Yes.
to each other.
Yes.
We own somewhere now between 10 and who knows exactly how many percent of the world's known population of Vlixes.
All right, one more time. How many do we know are in existence?
Under 20.
Okay.
Do
we have a solid number or just kind of...
We don't have a
I don't
solid
think
number.
it's solid, but I think wherever, if you just Google it online,
There's
you
not
can
many.
you can read about
There's not many
about the rarest action figure toys, and it basically will tell you that there's very few, like 20 or fewer out there.
What's beautiful too is this particular Vlix. So the first one is an AFA graded 75.
Yes.
This one actually, which is excellent to near mint.
Yes.
That's the grade it's given. The one that's on its way is actually a dead near mint. It's an 80.
Yep.
It's scored at
Is
80 AFA.
Yes.
Is it loose or carded?
Oh,
It's loose.
Oh
Okay.
man, if we had a carded, my God,
It
that
is a
would be-
loose one.
yeah.
Boy, a carded one would be
Yeah.
quite
Oh,
expensive. That
yeah.
would be. We'd have to probably hire a security guard to
You'd
watch
have
it.
No
at night.
kidding. Yeah.
Sell a car, take
It'd
out
be
a
like
mortgage.
it'd be like a museum. You know, people coming around and like going to see the royal jewels at London Tower. You know.
Except nobody would come and see it.
No.
What's heartbreaking though is we just sold our last vinyl Cape Jawa that we had.
Yes, we did.
And so we're on the hunt to get a few more of
Yeah.
those.
That's kind of the it's great to be able to sell a figure like that, but at the same time it's kind of sad because you work so hard to find it or to obtain it, and then you sell it, and then it's like, well, now we got to go and
Search,
search. Yeah, there's more searching and more buyer or more sellers to try to find.
Well, not more than a month ago we had two. We had two
Yes.
vinyl Cape Jawas,
Yep.
and now we're down to none.
Well, this is kind of the nature of collecting, though. Now, I know the world that we're in, being in a retail environment, is a little bit different, but just the nature of collecting if you're a hardcore collector, your collection is constantly shifting. If you're into something like you James, a while back you mentioned, Elvis memorabilia and that sort of thing. If you get hardcore into collecting, you only own things for a short period of time before you sell it and get something else. So it's kind of the same thing. Things come into the store, you can hold on to them for a little bit, but you can't hold on to them forever, and so it's kind of just passing it on to its next home.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And
I mean, it's
so important. I think. Chuck's been talking about. Well, we've all been talking about it, but I hardly recognize the store anymore. At least compared to several months ago, this place has just the inventory, the amount of incredible items that we've gotten. It's just amazing how we've grown, and but I kind of want to show them all. I mean, obviously you want to sell them. You got to stay in business, but it's nice to show them off too. You know,
it's nice to it's nice to have them in stock.
Yeah,
and that's where it's tricky because we want to turn them over. That's what we do, but at the same time, we always want to have one on its way or here. Ideally, you sell one and you've got one to back it up each time, and that's really tricky with some of these very rare pieces. But as far as the store always changing, Joey can attest to this. He comes walking in to set up the equipment, and the store's changed again, right, Joey?
Yeah, it's just from week to week.
Yeah,
I'm not talking little changes. Oh,
right.
you sold that. I see you sold
right.
that. Or I see you picked this thing up. It's no. You guys just get in another big collection that you're sorting through. Oh, an entire wall is different, or big
displays are moving around.
Racks are moving. Things are
cases are moving. Yeah.
It's always just ever changing. Ever.
It's what I think I've mentioned that I live in the dirty R, Rockwall, which is the enemy of McKinney, I guess. Well, it was back when I was in high school. Rockwall and McKinney were big rivals, but usually these items are usually shipped to my house because I have a house. But I don't know what else to say, but and I signed for the items, the big items, and the first Vlix came, back a while ago. And when I opened, my son, who's he's the one that got me involved with this store. And when it came, I said, "Oh my God, this is the Vlix." And my son says, "Open it up." And I said, "No." I mean,
then
my
it becomes
hands were
real.
shaking, but I had to open it up for him. And then Robert, as you can probably well attest, Robert can get on those rolls, like you and Liam can. He starts telling me the whole story about. I said, "Yes, I know, son. I've been told this story. I understand that." But so Robert was like, "Wow, this is amazing." Then my daughter comes and she gets her phone and she takes a picture of it with her camera phone. I mean, that's a big deal. And now we're getting a second one.
Yeah, and
I mean, it's just unfathomable.
Just for the years that I've been collecting, I can honestly say I never expected to ever actually see one in the flesh. I always just figured, okay, that's just going to be something I see on the internet, something you hear about, but I'm never going to see it, and it's just sitting across the room.
So, Joey, you think it's a big deal, don't you?
Yeah, it's a huge deal. Now, it's one of those things that just, I don't know, just for me, just the thing that makes it interesting is just the whole story behind it, and then, obviously not to mention just the fact that there are so few of them, but, it's just a crazy story, and just to know that it is the rarest of the rare. And
well, Chuck, can Chuck kind of tell the story about its rarity and
sure.
Everything about it?
We talked about this in an earlier podcast.
Did we? I don't remember, but let's go over it again. Let's review.
You were here
Mr.
that day.
Vlix was released as part of the animated droids figure line, but it was only released in Brazil under the Glasslight company rather than Kenner. So Glasslight was producing the figures just like the regular droids figures were produced in the U.S. And the problem with that is that line was very short-lived just because the series was awful.
Yeah.
It was not well received. There are people that love that series. There are people that love and are endeared to the Ewok series and the droid series. But as far as the Saturday morning cartoon, it didn't last. And as soon as the figures were made, they didn't hang around long, and they were clearanced out and stopped. So by the time Vlix was actually created, was almost right at the same time that it was being killed here in the U.S. So the word went down to basically put the kibosh on the whole line. And so only a few of the actual Vlix figures were actually made. Now, they actually were released, but so few of them actually made it out of the factory that, we don't even know how many there are. And then to actually know, that's not with them being purchased and then lost or destroyed or who knows, thrown out. And it's in Brazil. So, I mean, you're talking about one small area in the world compared to, it being released over here that would have been national, across, the entire, North America. Totally different circumstances. So that's what makes it such a rare figure. And the fact that it's a Star Wars figure, and it's listed, and what really brings its fame is when Kenner put out a pictorial of all the figures that existed from the very first 12-bag figures and all the variants all the way down to the Ewoks and the droids figures, and he's on that listing. So, because he's on there and because he's a Star Wars figure, he's so desirable because there's just so few of them. Most people, like Joey said, haven't even seen one. I mean, up until us having one, I'd never seen one before. And I've literally been dealing and collecting in toys my entire life. I mean, you're talking about 35 years or more of, handling figures. And I'd never even come across one or even known somebody that had one. So, I mean, you're talking about ultra rare.
I tell you what, it's such a big deal that our partner Jeff, who's not here tonight, he was in tears. I mean, this is like the ultimate find, the ultimate collectible.
I've known Jeffrey a long time, and he's been talking about a Vlix figure as long as I've known him. So for him to actually, acquire one for the store is huge, because he's owned a lot of, you would not believe a lot of the rare things that both him and I have seen and owned in our lifetime. So, I mean, for him to have that figure now is a big deal to him.
Now, realistically, how long would you say you anticipate Vlix actually sticking around?
It's really hard to say because, I mean, even though it's so rare, not quite as rare is the actual potential buyer for it. Because although almost everyone that collects figures out there would want to own it to be able to put it in a collection, it's not something that you would necessarily want to trade out a car for. It's like, hey, do I buy my wife a new car, or do I buy this Vlix figure? And, it's like Lexus or Vlix. I mean,
he's not very pretty either. I mean, he's not an attractive figure,
and it's not like it's like true. It's Yoda, or it's not like it's Darth Vader,
or a Boba Fett. He's just not. It's just, you look at it and you go, really, that's it?
Yeah, I would say even in the collecting world, unless you're like really really heavy into Star Wars, I would think if you asked somebody that actually knew what they were talking about, what do you think is the rarest Star Wars figure? I bet most people would say maybe like the infamous rocket firing Boba Fett. But because so few people
that's even rare though.
Yeah, so few people have actually even heard of Vlix. It's a character nobody even knows about.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, it's listed number one. I mean,
it is.
It is the action figure collectible of collectibles. So if you can have one, that's pretty amazing. If you can have two, that's like, wow, home run, grand slam, And so when I'm at home tomorrow and the knock comes on my door and I sign for the package and I start opening it up again, I'll probably be shaking again.
There'll be armed guards all the way.
And it shows up in a crushed box, and they say, "Oh, I don't know what happened. Sorry."
Or either that, or my 11 or my 12-year-old daughter takes it out and starts playing with it. Something like that. So.
Here, I'll put you on the spot, Chuck. I'm not sure I would even know the answer to this question, but do you know, in just your expertise of collecting, are there any rumors that are out there of any mystery figures that maybe were never officially released, other than like the rocket firing Boba Fett? Are there any swirling rumors
that are Star Wars?
Yeah, something that that one just was never released, or maybe it just only ever existed in a prototype form or something like that?
No,
because I know that's happened in a few other various action figure lines.
Sure, Masters of the Universe had happened.
Sure.
It's happened in like Rainbow Bright and things like that. Not for Star Wars. I believe that Kenner made full use of everything that they had sculpted. They're pretty wily about making sure that everything got its max value while they could.
I know I had seen on a TV show about a year or so ago that somebody actually did have their hands on a rocket firing Boba Fett prototype, and they got it authenticated and that whole thing. I don't know. It was a reality show, so it could have just been totally fabricated.
That person lives 10 minutes from here.
Really?
Yes. And is a friend of the store.
That's interesting.
But
I like to see that. Maybe we could arrange like a special exhibition for him.
This guy does not like to talk about his collection either. He's one of those people that he loves to own stuff, and he has an unbelievable collection of rare items, Star Wars stuff. It would just make you cry. But he's also somebody that's very, very, very low key about it.
Yeah.
And will not talk to people that he's not 100% comfortable with. I know the first time that Jeff introduced me to him, when I was new to the store, before I actually started, working with Jeffrey on a business capacity, he was even apprehensive to kind of invite me in and start talking to me about stuff. So I mean, it was very, very strange, but I totally get it. I mean, you don't want to think, oh yeah, I've got the rocket fire and Boba Fett. Oh, where is it that you live, by the way?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something that you definitely want to advertise. In fact, like where I live, I don't advertise it either. Yeah. It's known as the Lair, and that's it. And between the Lair and what I call the Vault, pretty much no one knows there, and it's like the Bat Cave. You may know close to where it is, but you'll never be able to repeat it. And
well, let me just say this. All of you out there, if you're in McKinney, you are invited to come to the store during business hours. Please don't try to get in any other way. And we should have these both Vlixes. I mean, who knows? We could turn around and sell them, but there's probably a pretty strong possibility they could be traveling with us to Anaheim.
Oh, they will.
For the celebration. And so if we don't have those sold before then, if you're going to be a celebration in Anaheim, if you're out on the West Coast or planning to fly to Anaheim in April for the convention from other places, come by our booth and you'll be able to see more than likely 2 Vlixes.
And no one else will have dueling Vlixes.
I don't think so. I mean, it would be really something if someone did. I just don't see it though.
Let's go in another direction for a second though, because there's the figures that are so rare, and then there's the thing that's current, that it's like red hot, and it may not stay hot. It may stay hot forever. Who knows? But something that was just released that is red hot right now is from the Rebels series on Disney XD. Is the Sabine Wren figure.
Yes.
It comes in the Mission series. It's a 2-pack. And Miss Sabine is smoking red hot right now. The figures have jumped. I mean, they came out in a day. Her figure went from, $40 to $80, depending on where you're going. And, I mean, we cannot keep it in stock here.
Yes. We had some people asking for it just a few
We've
days
got
ago.
people calling about it.
Yep.
But Sabine is definitely... They did not put her in the first wave, and I was surprised. But I think they did that on purpose. But she is awesome.
What do you think the popularity is from? I will confess I have not watched Rebels.
She's female Boba Fett.
Is it just the fact that it's a female in Mandalore armor, or what's the deal there?
I think so. I mean, but her character is very, like right now in the series, she's really cool. I mean, she's like a dead shot and everything. She's kind of no nonsense, and she's really, really awesome. So she's got sassy short red hair. She takes her helmet off a lot. So I mean, she's got she's not just like this, bounty hunter that just walks around with her armor on all the time. I mean, she's a very good character that they've been developing so far. So, and then now they've talked about her actually being in a live action performance in one of the Solo films. So that's going to be huge.
That's an interesting topic we haven't really gone into as far as the movies go, and we can be excited about episode 7, 8, and 9, the sequels. But it's right now the standalone films. They are still a really big mystery as to what they're even going to be about. We know the director of one or two of them, but that's about it. And they're coming out in the off years. They're releasing 7, 8, and 9, the quote unquote the saga movies, starting in 2015, and then every other year after that.
Right.
So, but in the off years, we got the standalone movies.
Right.
And the rumors are ranging everywhere from I've heard a Han Solo prequel, I've heard a Yoda prequel, I've heard a Boba Fett prequel. I think I've heard
Red 5.
Yeah, Red 5. That was or Rogue Squadron or something like that. That was kind of interesting to me. Just something that's really kind of offbeat. But yeah, we just don't know where those movies are going at all right now.
Well, now the big buzz is that they're combining the first Solo film into being Han Solo versus Boba Fett.
That would be interesting.
Wow.
And that sounds amazing because that's really where you can get some good, juicy, storylines going, and that canon that you love so much, that's out there can really be, expanded on and finally told, because there's so much depth. I started reading about Boba Fett like more than I already knew, and I was impressed with how far they've taken his character. Not just a badass in the films and like the early comic books, but his whole storyline is pretty awesome.
I think if they ever get to a point where they talk about Boba Fett after the original trilogy, it would just be so amazing to show him, because one of the coolest things in my mind is, in the movies you see him getting swallowed by the Sarlacc in Return of the Jedi, but in the books he busts his way out.
Yes,
and
he's the only one to ever do that.
And that is such a cool thing to read in the books. If they ever got that on film, that would be amazing.
And and what's really cool too is it's like, from that point on he has this like psychic link that's like, this, because the whole digestion process of the Sarlacc is very strange. So before he actually escapes, he basically has this like mind connection with the Sarlacc pit. So it's pretty cool stuff. He does go on to do great things. Has a wife and a child, and grows up and then leads the Mandalorians, and it's pretty cool stuff.
The only thing, I'm trying to think of what I've actually read about Boba Fett. They had the Tales from Jabba's Palace book, which was like a paperback with a bunch of backstories to a bunch of characters from Jabba's Palace, and I think that's the story, or that's where it's told that he escapes from the Sarlacc. And then the only other thing that I read, there was a trilogy of books. It was like the Mandalorian Armor trilogy, or I might be getting that wrong, or the Bounty Hunter trilogy. I can't remember. I read the first one, and for some reason I never read the others. But that was really cool. But yeah, just a lot of the really neat things that his character does, and it's one of those things you would think that like the more you hear about a character like that, it takes some of the mystique away from it, but it never really happens with Boba Fett.
I'm just getting a phone call from the Vlix guy here, but I'm not going to answer it. That's fine. No, that's fine. I can call him back.
He's going to tell you it just went through the wood chipper.
Yeah, that would be the case.
No!
But I was going to... I don't know if we have enough time to approach this, and I don't know... Now all these podcasts now are starting to kind of... I brought up the story of Vlix, and Chuck mentioned that we'd discussed that earlier. I hadn't remembered, but that's okay, I guess. But I don't know if we discussed this or not. What do you think about you two, who are very knowledgeable about Star Wars and have a great passion for it? What about the people who are saying that we may be oversaturated with Star Wars stuff in the next few years?
I don't know if I've heard that, but
I've read it.
My response to that would be, we've been inundated with superhero movies for the past 10 or 15 years, and nobody's really. And there are detractors out there, but the movie-going audience as a whole, I think people are pretty much on board with it. The box office says so, at least.
I remember back in the 80s that half of the department store's toy department was Star Wars. And it's not like that today.
It is sad if you're going into one of the big retail stores and you go and look at the Star Wars toys.
It is sad.
They're bare. Usually they just can't. There are some. You'll usually see a bunch of empty pegs, or you'll see the stuff that has been gathering dust for the past couple of months. It's a really weird state right now.
And I can tell you, coming from working in a big box retail environment, I set the Power of the Force set the day in '95 when the new figures reemerged, the red carded figures. I set that display for one of the major retailers here in Texas. The day that episode 1 launched, the product launch, I did that, and I did episode 2 and I did episode 3. And each one of those, it was like a 16 to 20 foot display, had a couple of end aisle displays that's set up. And I'll tell you, after the first day, like minutes after we opened, I'd worked all night to get it all set up and, stocked, 100% full. And it was gone.
The hordes
descended. It would just come in and it was gone. Everybody's looking for their, figures, and it's like, how many different ones are there? Because they wouldn't give you advance notice. Now you can go on Rebel Scum, and people know that Sabine's coming out months before it even happens. And
case
just
breakdowns
waiting for it to come. Yeah. But back then it was like, you just look at it and it's like, okay, well, this is what, is out there. And then people start to know word of mouth after that.
Yeah, I remember back in '95, the internet wasn't really a thing. Mm-hmm. And the only information that I had was by flipping over the back of the card. And then if you got some of the vehicles, it would come with like a little booklet in there of stuff that was coming out.
And then people that you knew.
Yeah, that was it. But yeah, now you can go online, get case breakdowns. Oh, if you see case number XYZ, you know exactly what's in there. And
the last one I set was episode 3. So let's go off of that one for a second. When I set that, it literally was a 16-foot aisle. We have actually some of the display signs behind me up here decorating the store.
Yep.
Those were actually part of.
Those
are actually part of that actual display. And when I set all the figures, there was 2 waves of figures. There was 12-inch figures. There was games, all kinds of different. There was the Ultimate Vader figure because it was episode 3, and I'll tell you, we had a line. There was a lava reflection Vader, and then there was a special gift card that the saber lit up that you could actually use as a gift card, but it it had a sound and it was really and light. And that first day, we sold out of everything.
Well, for all that stuff, they had like midnight releases for all that stuff. Even in the stores that are open 24 hours, they would rope off those aisles, get them set, and then whenever the clock struck midnight, and then you would have people waiting to get into that aisle. So yeah, and I imagine whenever episode 7 comes back around, it's going to be the exact same way. We're just in a really weird interim state right now.
Well, and you made a very good point, which I didn't take too much time to think about it, but you're right concerning the superhero movies and all. They keep coming back, and so why can't Star Wars come back?
Well, and they keep getting better, too.
Yeah,
they keep getting bigger audiences.
Yes.
Marvel is putting out, I want to say, 2 movies a year, and nobody's complaining. As long as they're good, nobody's going to complain. That's going to be the same way with Star Wars. As long as if they get the formula right, if they get the right people in charge of it, then
But it's like an experience too, because if you go to Disney World, if you go to Disneyland, you can go and you can ride these rides and go to these Star Wars experiences, or
absolutely.
for years now, even before Disney purchased Lucasfilm, they had Star Wars weekends.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we went to that in 2008 with Robert.
Yeah,
at Disney World. Yeah.
May the 4th be with you started because of Disney. Because they would have, all through May, they would do Star Wars weekends out there because they had the Star Wars adventure attraction that they had, licensed that. and that made big money for them. So then they looked at that, and it kept growing and growing and growing, and they're like, well, we'll just buy it.
George, hey, here's
yeah,
$4
that's exactly
million.
how it happens. Like, we'll just buy the whole thing
yeah.
because then we'll own all of it. So
It would be interesting. I know that the rumor keeps bouncing around out there, but if Disney ever gets around to opening up just an exclusively Star Wars theme park somewhere, that would be nuts. I don't know if that's even happening or what.
well, it could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
That would be pretty. It'd be
No
really,
spoilers here, Joey.
It'd be really cool if it opened in North Texas.
We can't be divulging any of that stuff. Even though we may know things.
And we also know that we've mentioned Marvel in their movies, and I'm sure all of you Star Wars fans have been probably finding out about us through the Star Wars comics that's just been released in mid-January. We have the full-page ad. So again, please check us out when you go to your comic book store and purchase your comic. Just check for our ad; you'll see us there.
Which is awesome because now we've got the second book is just released.
Yes. Yeah.
So we've got Darth Vader #1. Joey, make sure you pick up a copy before you leave. But what's really cool about those is they've been doing an action figure on a bubble, on a blister for each of the covers.
Really?
And so Darth Vader has one on Darth Vader #1. Issue 2 of the regular Star Wars comic had a Han Solo.
How come I have not seen these?
Luke was on the first one. There are so many different variant covers.
There's a lot of variant covers.
I've seen, at least for Star Wars #1, I've
Yes.
seen at least 35 different covers already. And they range in price from the cover price being $4.99 all the way up to $400 that I've seen so
Holy
far.
cow.
And that's been, as of our recording just now, about a month and a half. Not even that.
All kinds of different artists
3 weeks, 4 weeks.
doing them. But this set that they're doing that looks like carded figures is amazing. And I've already seen that issue 3 is going to have an Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
And then Princess Leia #1 is going to have her on a bubble. And then they just ran an ad in the Darth Vader comic that Kanan from Rebels, that's played by Freddie Prinze Jr., is going to have his own book. So there's at least 4 titles.
Well, for just the 3 of us, I thought we had a pretty good discussion, don't you think?
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah.
We are hitting the 30-minute mark, a little bit past it. But yeah, so we'll wrap up this episode. So like we said, we are Order 66 Toys. We are Sons of the Order. We are located in McKinney, Texas, in historic downtown McKinney, Texas, that is, at what's the address?
111 South Chestnut, McKinney, right by the water tower.
And the website is order66toys.net. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot those over to us. We'll try and get some of those addressed on future episodes.
That's Order 66
At Yahoo.
Unleashed, correct?
Yeah,
Order 66 Unleashed
at Yahoo.
at yahoo.com. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. And for Sons of the Order, I'm Joey.
I'm Chuck.
James.
And we'll see you next time. May the Force be with you.
Hare
And
Krishna.
also with you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.